What's going on, everybody? This is Benjamin Bakshari back with another F122 video, and today we found a gem of an online race. We are at Silverstone, and it was a pretty close race, which generally doesn't happen in online races for me. So we changed the wings up a bit from the time trial setup. Instead of 1810, we went with 1612, just to kind of curb some of the oversteer a little bit, make it a little bit more stable for the race. And because I loaded up the time trial setup and I was playing around with tire pressures before, I didn't know what tire pressures we were supposed to be at. And this was the first race of the day. I had been playing other games for a while and hopped on to F122, so I didn't get any practice in, didn't even get any warm-up. I just jumped into an online lobby right away, but we still managed to qualify P3, and here we are at the start of the race, about to start, and we are the only car in the top 5 on mediums. And if my starts aren't bad enough, the medium tires didn't really help. We get jumped almost right away, and we are just mugged and get pushed out by the Aston Martin. Now, I went back and watched the replay to see if the Aston Martin was being pinched on the inside. He wasn't. He just went out wide for no reason. And then somebody else goes out wide and hits us, and we get a 5-second penalty. So here we are. We lost a bunch of positions. We are in P7 now, and we got a 5-second penalty to boot. Now, VSC comes out because of the melee in turns 3 and 4. And as we come down the Wellington Straight here, there's just a car stopped in the middle of the straight. So I go around to avoid. We get an illegal overtake. Instead of just overtaking me, he drives into the back of me, loses his front wing, and more importantly, his front right tire. So he's out of the race right now. But we're still sitting in P6 with the 5-second penalty. And a couple of guys jumped into the lobby after qualifying. So I'm not quite sure who we are faster than at this point. I know 2 guys ahead of us should be faster than us, and that's about it. But I got to keep an eye on the cars behind us just because I don't know who might be faster than us. Now, coming into Magnussen Beckett's here, it's already a mess, and halfway through it, we lose 3 cars. Perfect for us. One of them being the guy that qualified in P2 in the Ferrari. Now, the guy that was on pole is currently in P2 right now, and he kind of makes an ill-advised dive going into this right-hand corner here and loses his front wing as well. Now, I wasn't quite sure who was at fault there, so I was going to be a little bit conservative with this guy in P1, but I went back and watched the replay, and it looked like the guy on pole just went a little bit late. So, but in the race right now, I wasn't sure how aggressive this guy in P1 was. And as you can see when he's on the straight and even in the corners sometimes, he's having to make micro corrections because I think he's on a controller. As you can see, his front end wiggling a little bit right there. Just little left adjustments here. So I know that he's on controller, and I know that he was in one or two collisions in the last lap, so I'm going to be a little bit conservative. I'm on the medium tires anyway. I'm not going to be as fast as I can be, and I'm not sure how fast this guy is, so we're going to sit back a little bit. As you can see, battery's still pretty much 100%. Haven't used a drop of overtake since the race started. I'm just going to sit back and watch this guy and just kind of see where he's weak and where he's strong, and then make my move when I think I have the chance. So right now, a couple guys behind us, P3, P4, P5, I think they got caught up in some of the messes, and I'm keeping an eye on their delta as well, just to see if they are extending the gap or if they are getting closer to us, just to make sure, because now that I know that the safety car is on, anything can happen, right? If the safety car comes out and the field bunches back up again, you might end up with a really quick driver behind you. So just pay attention to the guys behind you, even if they are 9 seconds, 11 seconds back, especially if the safety car is on in your race. So one of the guys behind us pits. So that's one less guy that we have to worry about. So we just have Not Zero and Mel Moses, who sets the fastest lap. So once that purple flashed up on the screen, I had to start paying attention because he was obviously faster than us. Now, yes, we are behind somebody. We were like under a second behind somebody, so we had a little bit of dirty air, and we are on the slower tire as another VSC comes out. But anytime anyone sets a fastest lap, it's something you should pay attention to. So now I'm not wanting to risk a drive-through penalty and we are gonna sit back a little bit. I don't care if I lose a little bit of time to this guy in P1 from the 2 laps that we were behind him. It didn't look like he was that much quicker than us anyway, so even if we lose DRS to him, I'm okay with that. Losing DRS is much better than getting a drive-through penalty. So just, err on the side of caution there. So, and look at that. Look how quick it took us to catch back up to him. Not even 1 sector. Now, we do have DRS here, but I'm choosing not to use any of the battery. Obviously, we are faster than him. No point wasting your resources when you don't need to. We were too far back to really make a move there anyway because of the VSC. And I think you have to be about a half a second behind to really be able to make an overtake if the other guy is using his battery as well. So since we were about 6/10 behind when we opened the DRS, I figured it really wasn't worth it. Now he's using his battery, what I call artificial speed, to try and make him look a little bit faster, but we catch right back up to him once again, and we are a lot closer. Now, he doesn't have a very neat and tidy Maggots and Beckett's, so we find ourselves just about 2/10 behind him when we cross the DRS line. So overtake is on, DRS is on. Not as quick as I wanted to be, but we take the inside line here, and we managed to take the position. Now, look at P3 and P4. They're still right there, right? They were 9 and 12 seconds behind as we almost get rear-ended by the guy we just overtook. And they're still right there. P3 is 8.2 seconds behind, and Mal Moses is 11 seconds behind. So we have to worry about those guys. I was about to come in on the next lap to change my tires, but at the end of lap 6 here, we get a full safety car. So the guy that was in P1 is now 36 seconds ahead. Don't have to worry about him, even with our 5-second penalty. Come in to put on the softs. Softs should make it till the end, as these guys that started on the softs have made it all the way to the start of lap 7. Plus a couple laps under the safety car. We're not going to put too much tire wear on the tire, so it will definitely make it to the end. So we can safely come in and pit for the softs right now. So we are in P1, Mal Moses 97 with the fastest lap in P2, and the Red Bull is in P3, but he's got a 5-second penalty for one reason or another. So we don't really have to worry about him. If he does get in front of us, we just have to stay within 5 seconds and we should be fine. And looking at the delta from before the safety car came out, it shouldn't be too difficult for us to stay under 5 seconds if he gets ahead. So now I noticed that the guy in P2 wasn't really that close to us coming down the hangar straight, but just as we were about to hit the last few corners, he straightens up, stops weaving, and now he's paying attention. I was gonna bolt, but he kind of perked up right when I was about to bolt, so I had to think better of it. So waiting for the exit of the last corner to give ourselves a better chance of pulling away. Gonna use my battery right now. I wasn't using my battery much, except for I think when we overtook the guy that was in P1. Haven't used my battery much in this race at all, so now we can kind of use all of our battery. I'm still at 100% after the safety car. Everybody's at 100%, so I have to be a little bit smart here. I don't want to drain all of my battery and then find out the guy behind me is much, much quicker than me. So we have to be a little bit conservative with it. But coming into Sector 2, we still have 2 cars on our gearbox as P4 and P5 have already kind of dropped back a little bit. I don't know if that was because they weren't paying attention when the race went green again, or if they're just kind of slow. Man, somebody's on the hard tires. Why would you go on the hard tires? There's literally like 4 laps left, 5 laps left. But yeah, these 2 guys behind us are sticking really close to us, so now I have to kind of think about using my resources a little bit smarter. So we go into resource manage mode. At this point, I'm still trying to pull away. We are at about 8/10 now down this straight here, and he's not really deploying as we were kind of pulling away a little bit, and we are about 9/10 now. P3's dropped back a little bit, but as you'll see later on, they'll kind of start going wide and cutting corners, track extending to kind of keep with me a little bit, but we still we're gonna try and keep this as clean as possible ourselves, just because I don't like to do that stuff. So yeah, start of lap 10 here. Mal Moses 97 is still under a second, so he's going to get DRS when it is enabled. after this lap, I believe. We do have the fastest lap right now, but we are on the soft tires, and it's much later in the race, so we have less fuel in the car. The car is less heavy, so obviously the car is going to be a little bit faster, so I'm not taking too much from having the fastest lap, just because it doesn't really matter. It just all depends on who's got the best condition, the latest in the race. The best car condition, I should say, the latest in the race, so it doesn't really matter much at this point. We do manage to get outside 1 second momentarily there as we hit Copse and going into Maggots Beckett's. I was hoping that we would be able to keep that 1 second gap, but I think Malmoses starts using battery a little bit to kind of close that up and make sure that he gets DRS. So just almost a full second ahead of him, and at this point he's got DRS, I think. I believe he does anyway. But as you can see, he's not really making that much progress down the Hanger Straight, even if he did have ERS, as we once again get over the 1 second mark. But I'm just so bad in this last corner complex here. I'm just too hesitant to get on the throttle too early. No, I apologize. DRS is now just enabled, so yeah, the final few corners is just really difficult for me. Even though I raised the rear wing by 2 clicks, I still feel like I'm about to lose traction there, so I have to be really hesitant on throttle, and P2 gains a lot of time through there just because he's a little bit better through those last few corners. So now he does have DRS, and at this point we're just going to focus on his closing speed. I'm trying to figure out how close he needs to be to me in order to overtake. As you can see, we only have about 35% battery left. I don't want to use it needlessly, trying to extend a gap that he's just going to close up anyway. So at this point, going into Copse, we are about 6 tenths behind. They're extending the track a little bit to stay close, but that's fine. And into Maggots and Beckett's, we're still at about 6 tenths. So I'm looking at the gap, and I'm looking at his closing speed right now. 7 tenths. He's got DRS. How fast is he closing in? And this is the calculation. These are the calculations that I'm doing in my head. So with just DRS, he closed in about 3 tenths down the Hanger Straight. Now I'm gonna judge it conservatively. I will assume he wasn't using his overtake either. So if it's 3 tenths with DRS, then I want to be maybe about 6 tenths ahead when we hit the DRS zone. Now, Wellington Straight's a little bit too short for somebody to really make an overtake. They'd really have to be like right on my gearbox to really overtake me with DRS and battery, and at this point he's still about a half second behind, and I'm not quite sure why, but he doesn't seem to get amazing traction out of there. Could be because he's on the medium tires, but yeah, even with DRS, he doesn't really close in. It's just because we don't really hit top speed until we're almost right at the end of the straight anyway, so he can't really fully take advantage of the DRS. So once again, coming down into Copse, we are about a half a second in front of him, and at this point I think I'm okay for now. I think as long as I have at least 6 tenths of a second lead, maybe even half a second lead, we should be okay going down the Hanger Straight. So through Maggots and Beckett's, the gap is still about 4.5 tenths, about half a second here. And once again, I'm just looking at his closing speed. Use a little bit of overtake just to kind of experiment a little bit. But yeah, look at that. He doesn't really close in that quickly. Only about 1.5 tenths. So he must have been using battery in the last lap, and he wasn't using battery this lap. So this kind of information helps me judge how I need to manage my resources at the end of the race. Now, use a little bit of battery here to try and extend a little bit in case he does try to make a move down the Wellington Straight, but we have a half a second gap to him. P3 went off at some point while I was talking. I'm sure you saw it in the rear view mirror, but I totally missed it. And I think going down the Hanger Straight, right at the beginning of the Hanger Straight. As you can see, coming on into the Wellington Straight here, we have 6 tenths ahead of him, just using a little bit of battery. Again, I don't want him to see my battery flashing. I don't want him to know what my battery is at. So at all costs, I'm trying to avoid showing him my hand, right? So I'm gonna just use enough to give me a boost, and that's about it. Again, coming out of this right-hand corner, just a little bit of battery, keeping it at 20%. I'm going to save the majority of what I have left for the hanger straight. So going into comps, we are 6/10 ahead, and I think I'm good at this point. He's using battery a little bit. As you can see, the gap's closing now. He didn't have a good cops section, and we go through into Maggots and Becketts. We're still at about half a second, a little bit lower than what I would like, but we're going to use up all of our battery at this point, and now I feel super safe with the race win just because he's so far back. So even if he does have battery and DRS, he's really not going to be close enough to make a move. So at this point now, I don't care if he sees that my battery's flashing. We've got it in the bag anyway. As long as he doesn't make a dumb move and just drives into us and push us off, we have the race won. So yeah, I was sweating there for the last few laps and shaking a little bit just because it was so close, and I was like, damn it, why didn't I do a couple warm-up laps before this? I could push the car a little bit more. But yeah, guys, that was a really close race. I want to give credit to the guys that were in this race, kept it clean, or as clean as possible, with me anyway, and a really tight race there at the end with Mal Moses 99, who was probably quicker than us, but we were on the better tire at the right time, and he had to deal with all the dirty air, but we end up with the win anyway, even though the race kind of started off a bit messy. So there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. And if you think I've run it, feel free to leave a like, comment, or subscribe. Stay tuned for more. Remember to eat your bok choy, and I'll see you guys in the next one.